I mean, we're talking about problems that exist now, not exist in the future or have occurred in the past. I mean, for example, you mentioned in your speech very eloquently about a 30-year-old mother of three, Elena Tamina Kukla, and her 2-month-old baby Orlando, who were killed in a murder-suicide this month. Kukla now leaves behind 2 other sons who now have no mother. Senator, is the legal system in the Territory more sympathetic to perpetrators than it is to victims?
Absolutely it is. And as long as, as long as there are those that work in the space of domestic violence who are regarded as advocates, who continue to push this idea that it's a result of colonisation that we have such great high levels of violence, they're actually perpetuating the problem as well. Certainly the justice system in the Northern Territory has a long way to go in terms of supporting the victims. As the previous federal coalition government invested heavily in the space of domestic and family violence, and I know that there are women's legal services within the Northern Territory that don't tick the Indigenous organisation box, but who serve predominantly Indigenous female victims who, once that funding is then handed on to the Northern Territory government has not held up their end of the bargain to ensure that those services receive the full funding that it was agreed to by the federal government that they should get, which has meant that those organisations have to then reduce their staff numbers. They don't have the capacity to support the victims. But the really horrible part about it all is that what the Territory government does, that funding that was meant for those services, they give to Aboriginal legal services, because those Aboriginal legal services are predominantly Labor supporting legal services, but they also support the perpetrators. So there's a huge issue going on there that, the Territory government doesn't want to have a look at. This federal Labor government needs to hold that Territory government to account for this level, this sort of thing taking place. And these are all the things that are clear, are absolutely clear and open where the issues lie, where things can be done better, where victims are shortchanged and the systems need to better serve them.
Jacinta, are Territorians becoming desensitised to what most people would describe as outright horror?
Definitely. For years we've witnessed the violence, domestic violence on our streets. Prior to intervention, you'd see it all the time. And in a traditional Aboriginal context, you don't interfere with other people's business. You turn a blind eye to it. And this also lends itself to perpetuating this problem. And the wider community would see a woman getting bashed up by, an Aboriginal woman getting bashed up by her Aboriginal other half and just go, it's not our problem, we're going to ignore it. And then Aboriginal people going, don't get involved because then we'll end up becoming the victims of violence. And that attitude has prevailed over the years. It's the reason why the intervention stepped in, because not enough was being done to address violence and sexual abuse of children and that sort of thing. And that's certainly what I'm going to continue to push and to highlight going forward. Because a lot of people in our communities have become desensitised to the fact that we've got such high rates of crime, violence and sexual abuse.